Reunion is a 1971 novella by the German author Fred Uhlman. Uhlman was born in Stuttgart in 1901. He worked as a lawyer in the early 1930s, but being of Jewish origin, had to escape the Nazis. He moved to Paris, where he was effectively stateless and highly vulnerable, and dedicated himself to painting. In 1936, he made it to England, where he married the daughter of a prominent right-winger, much to her parents' disgust. During the war, he was briefly interned. Afterwards, he became famous as a painter and author. Although Reunion was published in 1971, it was written a decade earlier, and it's partly autobiographical. It's about the friendship between two boys in a Stuttgart secondary school in 1932. The first-person protagonist, Hans Schwartz, loosely based on the author himself, describes himself as the son of a Jewish doctor and great-grandson of a rabbi, and of a long line of small merchants and cattle dealers, who laments his shyness, his suspicious pride and fear of being hurt. The novel begins when the second boy arrives at the school. Konradin von Hohenfels is everything that Hans Schwartz is not, and believes he's not. Everything about him aroused my curiosity, he tells us. The care with which he selected his pencil, the way he sat erect, as if at any moment he might have to get up and give an order to an invisible army, and how he stroked his blonde hair. Indeed, no lover could have watched Helen of Troy more intently than I watched him, or could have been more convinced of his own inferiority. In fact, Konradin von Hohenfels belongs to one of the most illustrious aristocratic families in Germany, and for reasons to do with Hans Schwartz's obvious intelligence, the two boys become friends. Schwartz is delighted, but there are ominous dark spots. While Schwartz is happy to have his new friend meet his parents, although the introductions don't go entirely without a hitch, Hohenfels only invites him back to his mansion when his parents are out. Eventually, Schwartz asks why. Eventually, Hohenfels tells him, "My mother comes from a distinguished, once royal Polish family, and she hates Jews. For hundreds of years, Jews didn't exist for her people. They were lower than the serfs, the scum of the earth, untouchables. She detests Jews. She's jealous of you because you, a Jew, have made a friend of her son. She thinks my being seen with you is a blot on the Hohenfels escutcheon. She's afraid of you too. She believes you've undermined my religious faith, and that you are in the service of world Jewry, which is only another word for Bolshevism." But Konradin thinks they should continue being friends. The power of Uhlman's novel lies in its subtle evocation of a growing political and cultural darkness. The teachers at school start endorsing historical propaganda about the Aryan origins of ancient Greece and Rome, and the school bullies become aggressively anti-Semitic. Throughout all of this, Konradin von Hohenfels seems serenely detached. Schwartz's parents decide to send him to America. After that's decided, he receives a letter from his supposed friend. "I met Hitler recently when I was in Munich with my mother," he says. "Outwardly, he's an unimpressive little man, but as soon as one listens to him, one is carried away by the sheer power of his conviction, his iron will, his demonic intensity and prophetic insight. When my mother left, she was in tears and kept on repeating, 'God has sent him to us.' I'm sorrier than I can say that for a time, perhaps a year or two, there won't be a place for you in this new Germany." Nevertheless, he adds, "I can't see any reason why you shouldn't come back later. Germany needs people like you, and I'm convinced that the Führer is perfectly able and willing to choose between the good and the undesirable Jewish elements." That might sound like the end of the story, but it isn't. The final sentence is the shocker here, but you'll have to read it for that. It's less than 80 pages long, but in terms of clarity and concision, many critics consider it to be one of the best novellas of the second half of the 20th century. I wouldn't disagree.